What is up, everybody? Erin and I actually rode every single day over her birthday/Labor Day weekend. This is the Sunday that you're seeing here, and we had decided to head to an area we really haven't ridden in that much. We parked at the bridle trail near Solon. As always, the routes are linked down below if you want to see exactly what we did, and headed out on the multi-purpose trail. The whole weekend, and since then, as I'm recording this, I've been riding a bike I usually don't ride as often, my 1994 Team Marin. I have a full bike check later in the video, because this bike has been on the channel a number of times, but if you're new around here, you'll get to see all the details if you like towards the end. But in a nutshell, it's kind of one of those 90s mountain bike to gravel bike drop bar conversions. But anyways, back to the ride. So what we did on this day is similar to what we did in the last video and the ride that was 2 days before this in Canton, Ohio. Erin had made a route with a couple points along the way and turned it into a loop, just kind of in an area we haven't ridden as much before. Here we're heading through the South Chagrin Reservation, and this drops down into the Chagrin River Valley. It's one thing I love about the Cleveland Metroparks trails, these multi-purpose trails they build. Since they're not rail trails or canal towpaths, they have much more undulation and curves up and down into the woods, out of the woods, along the road, because they're made specifically just for the purpose of riding bikes, running, walking, hiking, whatever it is, and they're not following a path that was pre-existing or a right-of-way that was pre-existing. And so for those of you that don't know, the Cleveland Metroparks doesn't just include Cleveland. That's their Cuyahoga County Metroparks. They've just kept the Cleveland name. Unlike in Akron, where ours used to be the Akron Municipal Parks, the name was changed to Summit County at some point as the park system encompassed the whole county. So about the first quarter of the ride, I would say, was on the multi-purpose path like this, but we did end up breaking off, heading through Chagrin Falls proper, then out into the country towards Bainbridge before turning around and looping our way back. Obviously, a couple stops along the way that we'll talk about too. In the last video, I talked about a bike lane that was going against the flow of traffic and how kind of disoriented that is. Here it's kind of the same thing, but they have those plastic bollards, and since it is more of a multi-purpose trail, it really feels different. And that little bit of plastic actually does change the feel and the vibes there. Also, for some reason, they kind of put them inside the white line. Erin actually caught her hand on one and got like a little bit of a cut or a bruise. So it kind of seems like a weird decision not to put them right on the white line. But either way, I'll take them over nothing at all. You do have to be fairly cautious if you are riding these, because you could pick up good speed, but of course you have to be looking out for pedestrians, people walking their dogs. You know, it's up to you to keep in control of your bike. Also, there are a lot of people you see more of the roadies out riding on these parkway roads because they're not that bad to ride on either. So if you really are trying to hit it hard, that's the way to go. Here we're getting into the outskirts of Chagrin Falls. Chagrin Falls is probably the richest of Cleveland suburbs, or I don't know how they rank, but it's definitely up there. Our stop wasn't going to be in the downtown proper here, but we did take a little break to walk down and check out the waterfall. And the one side was under construction where the dam is and everything, but on the other side you could still see the waterfall. There's a really cool restaurant across the way too, with these balconies and dining rooms that overlook the falls area. It was a climb out of town and out of the river valley, obviously. This was a day with a decent amount of climbing for a pretty simple loop. I think we ended up with 1,500 feet of climbing over a 28-mile route. So not crazy, but definitely front-loaded. So most of the climbing was towards the beginning of this ride. And then it was still rolly later in the ride, but just not as long of sustained climbs like these ones were. Our first stop was Crooked Pecker Brewing. We had been here once before on my birthday, but had never ridden bikes here before. They have this really great, huge outdoor space. They sometimes have food trucks, but it's not a food stop. We do also drink their beer in Kent. Taco Tano's in Kent usually has one or two of their beers on tap, so we already know we really like what they have. We only each had a beer and then a half beer. I think Erin only had 2 half beers, actually, because we knew we were riding on to another brewery where we'd also be getting lunch that wasn't super far down the road. As mentioned, I'm not super familiar with the area out this way, but it was more country than I expected and way less just constant suburbia. So this was our second stop, a newer brewery called Pompatus. Here they do these giant pretzel things, and you could get them in different flavors and styles, and you could even get them split almost like you would with a pizza. So that's what we did. The beer was good, the pretzels were good. We each only had one. We were more riding than trying to sit around and drink on this day. So we had our pretzels, we had our beer, then we hit the road, and the way Erin had routed us took us out the back of the brewery, and we thought it was just going to be a cut, but if you followed this route, I would definitely reroute around this area. I think this is just someone's driveway. So yeah, then it was back out into the country. That was also our turning point, so now we're heading back towards the car. As mentioned, it was still rolly, still a little bit up and down, but not quite as climby as the first half of the day was. I believe this is the outskirts of Solon, this kind of nice windy neighborhood road. Not a lot of traffic, not a lot of cars moving fast through here, so a good route to ride on. We saw a number of other bikes out on this route too. That was the downtown area of Solon, and then on the other side on the way out, went through a little bit more of an industrial section, which on Labor Day weekend on a Sunday wasn't very busy. We also had, as we've talked about on the channel before, these accidental bike lanes with the construction going on there. So this was another great day out, a great route that Erin had planned again. The weather was perfect. You could see how beautiful it is. It's also in the low 70s, so perfect riding temperature for some late summer exploration. So here's a little bike check I filmed while out working and taking some photographs. So this is a 1994 Team Marin. I'd written elsewhere that it was a 96, but I did some more research and realized that it's actually a 94 from looking at some old catalogs. The frame is Tange Prestige tubing. It's the latest steel frame I've ever held. The cranks are Velo Orange and the pedals are Deity Blade Runners. The wheels are vintage carbon spins that my buddy Pudgy gave me for my birthday. I know they're so gaudy and I absolutely love them. The group set is 9-speed Ultegra except for the left shifter which broke, so now that's a 105 9-speed shifter. I did not look up what the gear ratios are. Who cares? It works for me. We also got some Velo Orange drop bars on this, and with the drop bars, I am running the Happy Stem, which bumps the bars up enough so they are comfortable drop bar positions on an old 90s mountain bike, which you know are horrible geometry in general, so you have to fix it. The brakes are Mayfac cantilever brakes. I got these off an old cyclocross bike that a friend gave me that the frame was bent, so I took all the components and they've found their way onto a bunch of different bikes over the years. I have a walled basket up front with a Roadrunner, I think these are the jammer bags in there, and it's one of those cheap, is it Sunlight or Sunrace racks up front. They're like $20 or I think they're like $30 now, but they do the trick. I originally looked at a really cool Renaers one, but it wasn't going to be here in time when I originally built the bike. So I put this on as a stopgap and it just works, so I've never changed it. This came with a suspension fork, but amazingly, I found a new old stock, perfectly colored matched Marin fork on eBay from someone in Italy. So yeah, I just still can't believe that coincidence because this frame also came from Hungary. I got a pretty good deal on it because I think the guy just didn't list any information about it. So I kind of took a gamble, hoping it would be a decent size and a decent bike, and it was. And these are some starting to get worn out Gravel King tires on here. This 26-inch wheel bike, obviously. Of course, a Leatherbrooks B17 saddle, like any bike that I ride a decent amount, and a setback Thompson Elite seat post, which also helps the bike fit. So that's my attempt at the 90s mountain bike to gravel bike conversion, I guess. I'm actually pretty impressed with this bike. It handles pretty weird at slow speeds with, I guess, just the way the stem and the bars are. But once you're moving, it actually rides really, really nice. And I've been riding it a lot over the last couple weeks, so much nicer than I actually remember it riding. And I think part of the thing is I rode it on a bike tour, so you know, things feel weird there. And if you have a loaded down bike and you're going slow, it doesn't handle that great. I also mountain biked it on a couple times, and you know, my Gunner full rigid is such a better bike for mountain biking. That's not great for that. And then I know one time I took it out for a weekend right after ripping the derailleur off my rally, and I was riding with a bunch of people who were way faster than me. So I think in the back of my head, I got that this bike doesn't ride that nice. And as I've been riding it, today I rode it 25 miles at over 14 miles an hour, and it was awesome. So I don't know. It actually turned out to be a pretty good way to convert a 90s mountain bike that's not just a towny cruiser, which is usually what I think they're best for. I ended up just watching Russ from Pathless Pedal's video with the SomaFab guy where they talked all about 90s mountain bikes, and I agreed with almost everything they said on that episode. But there are still a couple ways where you can get them functional. That being said, you end up putting enough money into them that you probably could have just bought yourself a used gravel bike with more modern components. But hey, this is a fun bike and nothing else looks like it. I guarantee you that. So this ride here was the day between the last two videos. Erin and I had just done a simple ride out to Kent to Bell Tower Brewing. I didn't film a whole bunch because it's a route we just do all the time. So there wasn't a ton new there, but it was still a pretty day, so I captured a little bit of the ride. We also rode on actual Labor Day, and on that day we just did a ride out to get some late lunch, and same thing, it was a route that I ride all the time, so I didn't take the time to get a bunch of footage, except for a little bit of footage of the shadows of the tri-spokes. That just never gets old to me. I don't know what it is. Let me know if you like those wheels or if you just think they're way too much. I know Erin doesn't think they look good, but I just think they're so over the top and awesome. Anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks as always for watching. Give this video that thumbs up. I appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Peace.